In the beginning, there was sky, vast and endless, a canvas of clouds and lightning above humankind. People looked upward, wondering what force moved the storms, what spirit lived within thunder. They imagined not chaos, but a presence, steady and mighty, shaping the balance of the heavens. This presence had a name carried by winds, whispered through mountains, echoed in sacred temples. His name was Zeus, eternal ruler of Olympus, king among gods, guardian of order and justice. Every roll of thunder was his voice, every flash of lightning his sign across the darkened sky. For ancient eyes, the storm was not a threat but a message, a reminder of power beyond mortality. Zeus was not only strength but also wisdom, guiding the divine and the mortal with unseen authority. He was protector of oaths, keeper of fairness, a divine witness to promises made and broken. Travelers prayed for his blessing, leaders sought his approval, and poets sang of his eternal reign. His story is more than myth. It is a tale of order, of balance, and of the spark within creation. Tonight, we journey through clouds and thunder, into the timeless realm of Zeus, king of the skies. Long before Olympus shone in the sky, the world was ruled by shadows, silence, and endless time. The Titans held power, ancient beings vast and stern, shaping mountains, oceans, and the first skies. Cronus, lord of time, sat at the heart of this dominion, feared by all, yet trapped in his own dread. He had been warned by prophecy that one of his children would rise, taking throne and crown from him. So when each child was born, Cronus swallowed them, hiding them in darkness, denying them the light. One by one they vanished, swallowed by fear and hunger for power, lost to the cradle of eternity. But Rhea, his queen, carried in her heart both sorrow and the courage of a mother's secret dream. When her youngest was born, she looked into the child's eyes and saw lightning and dawn inside. She could not bear to lose him. Not this one. Not the child destined to change the fate of gods. So she wrapped a stone in cloth, placed it in Cronus's arms, and let his hunger devour only silence. Meanwhile, the child was hidden far away, cradled by earth and sky, nurtured in secrecy and hope. This child was Zeus, small yet bright, fragile yet filled with the pulse of eternity in every breath. He grew on the island of Crete, beneath sacred trees and the echo of mountains that shielded him. The nymphs fed him honey and milk, whispering songs of courage into his dreaming infant ears. The goat Amalthea nursed him, her milk rich with life, her gaze gentle, her spirit eternal. The Curetes danced in armor, clashing their shields so Cronus would not hear the child's cries. Every sound of thunder that echoed in the caves was masked by the rhythm of their eternal dance. And so Zeus grew, unseen by the devouring gaze of his father, hidden yet prepared by destiny. His laughter filled the forests, his steps awakened the winds, his gaze reached for the endless sky. The boy carried the promise of change, the seed of light, in an age that feared its own future. Stories say he played with sparks of fire, rolling them in his hands like pebbles of living light. Others tell of how he gazed at clouds and felt them stir, as if answering the call of his soul. Even as a child, the elements bent gently toward him, knowing the mark of their future master. The sea whispered through waves, the earth trembled softly beneath his feet, and winds caressed him. Zeus learned, not from books or temples, but from the living world, the first great teacher of gods. He heard the voice of justice in flowing rivers, the call of courage in storms, the song of harmony. Every whisper of nature became a lesson. Every shift of sky became a chapter in his eternal story. Though still young, he held within him the balance of strength and wisdom, power and gentleness. He did not yet know his throne, nor the weight of a crown, but he carried a heart made for both. The hidden years shaped him, not in battle, but in silence, in learning to listen to the world. Rhea's hope, the nymph's care, and the laughter of earth gave Zeus his first lessons in leadership. Not command, but guidance. Not conquest, but harmony. Not fear, but respect for the order of life. And in this way, the child of prophecy grew, ready to step beyond the shadows when the time arrived. The story of Zeus does not begin with war, but with love, patience, and the hidden power of nurture. For even the greatest of kings must first learn to walk among forests before ruling the skies. And so, in the quiet caves of Crete, the eternal reign of Zeus first flickered into being. Years passed, and the boy who once hid among caves grew into a figure strong and filled with quiet fire. Zeus had learned patience and silence, wisdom in nature, and courage from the guardians who loved him. He no longer resembled the fragile child hidden from Cronus, but a spirit prepared for destiny's call. The skies seemed to bend toward him, as if already recognizing their future ruler in human form. When he walked, winds stirred at his side. When he spoke, the air held still, listening with reverence. Yet Zeus did not dream of conquest alone. He dreamed of freedom for those swallowed by his father. For deep within him lived a memory of siblings unseen, voices silenced, swallowed by fear and time. He knew the prophecy, whispered by earth and stars, that he would rise, restore balance, and guide all. But how could a single soul stand against Cronus, Lord of Time, a titan feared by every being alive? Zeus did not rush. He sought allies, those who shared his hope for a world free from dread and silence. From the depths of the earth came whispers of hidden wisdom, guiding him toward his true path. The goddess Metis, spirit of cunning thought, appeared, her presence calm, her voice clear as water. She saw in Zeus not only strength but vision, a leader who could balance force with gentle wisdom. Metis taught him that power without guidance falters, and wisdom without courage fades into dust. She revealed secrets of destiny, offering him counsel that would shape the rise of a new order. Zeus listened with humility, for he knew greatness is not seized alone, but built with trusted guidance. Through Metis, he learned the art of patience, the value of strategy, and the beauty of divine justice. He prepared not through fury, but through thought, gathering knowledge as weapons of eternal strength. Yet allies were more than wisdom. Zeus needed those who would stand beside him in the coming dawn. He sought the Cyclopes, the ancient smiths of thunder, hidden in shadows, shunned by fearful eyes. These mighty craftsmen recognized in Zeus the spark of promise, the light of balance long awaited. They forged for him a gift unlike any other, a thunderbolt carved from the heart of storm and fire. This was no mere weapon. It was a symbol, a voice of the skies, a promise of justice striking true. With the thunderbolt, Zeus did not hold destruction but authority. The clarity of order made visible. Every crackle of lightning reminded him that he carried both burden and blessing in equal measure. The Hecatoncheires, beings of vast form and countless hands, also heard the call of Zeus's rise. They had once been bound by Cronus, hidden from the world, denied their place beneath the stars. In Zeus they saw liberation, and in their loyalty he found strength greater than mountains themselves. Piece by piece, the world began to lean toward balance, as threads of fate gathered in secret harmony. The gods who would one day sit upon Olympus watched quietly, drawn to the light of Zeus's destiny. Though the hour of open challenge had not come, a throne was already waiting in the heart of time. Zeus understood his path was not merely about defeating a father, but about reshaping all creation. He would bring not only freedom to his siblings, but order to gods and mortals, harmony to cosmos. The ascent to Olympus began not with battle cries, but with whispers, lessons, and sacred alliances. He walked no longer as a hidden child, but as a leader, ready to bear the weight of eternal skies. The stars above seemed to shimmer with approval, guiding him toward the throne that awaited. For the reign of Zeus was not born from chance, but from patience, wisdom, and unshaken resolve. Thus the young god stood at the edge of destiny, prepared to ascend and light the heavens forever. High upon the sacred mountains, where storms gathered and clouds swirled, Zeus held a gift of destiny. The thunderbolt, bright and eternal, pulsed in his hands like living fire born from the heart of storms. It was forged not as a weapon of rage, but as a symbol of clarity, justice, and unshaken divine order. Each spark hummed with the voice of the sky, each flash carrying the weight of truth beyond words. When Zeus lifted it, The heavens responded, roaring with light, as if greeting their rightful guardian. The Cyclopes had told him, "This bolt is not destruction, but balance, a sign of your eternal reign." Zeus understood. Power meant responsibility, and every strike must shine with meaning, not anger. The thunderbolt became more than a tool. It was his covenant with gods, mortals, and the cosmos. It promised fairness where deceit thrived, protection where weakness suffered, and order where chaos grew. In villages far below, people looked to the skies, hearing thunder roll across valleys and seas. They whispered that the sound was Zeus speaking, a voice that echoed over mountains and rivers alike. For them, lightning was not fear but guidance, a reminder that justice walked hand in hand with power. Priests offered prayers, poets sang, and travelers bowed, believing Zeus watched with eyes of the storm. Every crack across the heavens carried both awe and comfort, for it was the sign of divine presence. Zeus himself often stood alone on mountain peaks, gazing at the horizon, holding the bolt in silence. He did not see it as conquest, but as a bond, a promise to guard creation and honor eternal balance. The gods who gathered near him felt the calm of his resolve and the strength of his thunderous voice. Even those who doubted recognized that destiny had given him something no other could command. The bolt was not forged only of fire, but of trust that Zeus would rule with wisdom and order. He carried it not to strike without reason, but to remind all that harmony required a guiding hand. Sometimes he raised it against stormy clouds, letting lightning dance as a beacon for wandering souls. Sailors at sea prayed to the flashes, believing Zeus guided their ships through waves and winds. Farmers saw the thunder as a blessing, heralding rain that nourished their crops and restored life. In this way, the thunderbolt became more than a gift. It became a bridge between heaven and earth. Mortals and immortals alike felt its presence, connecting their fragile lives to eternal Olympus. And for Zeus, each rumble in the clouds reminded him of his vow: justice above all, balance forever. He knew storms could destroy, but they could also cleanse, heal, and bring renewal after long droughts. The power he carried was dual, both fierce and tender, both warning and blessing in equal measure. That was why the bolt mattered. It was not simply light and darkness, but order within endless chaos. Zeus never forgot Metis's words. Wisdom must guide strength, or strength will shatter into tyranny. So he held the thunderbolt with reverence, never carelessly, always with thought and solemn intent. Other gods marveled, some envied, but all acknowledged that Zeus bore the mark of eternal rule. The skies bowed to him, the earth answered him, and the seas whispered his name in rolling waves. From that day, thunder was not merely sound, it was law, a song of balance carried through eternity. The eternal reign of Zeus glimmered in every storm, a promise that order would never fade to silence. Justice, like thunder, was a voice that echoed across valleys and cities, binding mortals to divine law. Zeus was more than a ruler of skies. He was guardian of fairness, keeper of oaths, and watcher of truth. Every promise sworn under heaven was believed to rest beneath his gaze, carried by winds to Olympus. If a king lied, if a traitor cheated, if a friend betrayed, Zeus was thought to see, silent but aware. The thunder above was not only storm but reminder. Truth was sacred, and lies would never endure. People built shrines to Zeus Horkios, protector of vows, asking his blessing when words carried weight. In courts, when disputes rose, they lifted their hands to the sky, swearing honesty beneath his name. Zeus was invoked not out of fear, but respect, for without trust, no city, no family, no bond could live. He knew power alone could not hold the world together. It was justice that wove order into life. And so, while his thunderbolt spoke of strength, his watch over oaths spoke of wisdom and fairness. Priests told stories of Zeus as the silent witness, unseen at banquets, journeys, or sacred contracts. They said his eyes followed the traveler's path, ensuring hospitality, kindness, and rightful respect. A host who welcomed strangers honored Zeus Xenios, who blessed the gift of bread, shelter, and water. Those who closed their doors were warned that Zeus himself might come disguised, testing their hearts. For in his reign, justice was not only about laws, but about compassion, about fairness in daily life. Every act of honesty was a prayer, every kind gesture an offering, every kept promise a sacred flame. Zeus carried this flame within his reign, ensuring that the balance of heaven reached mortal hands. The gods themselves, though mighty, stood beneath this law, for justice was greater than even Olympus. Hera, Athena, Apollo all knew that Zeus's throne rested not on might but on the pillars of truth. Without justice, Olympus would fall into quarrel. Without fairness, mortals would sink into despair. Zeus understood that rule meant listening, guiding, and protecting those who placed trust in heaven. The thunderbolt could frighten, but it was fairness that united, giving reason to follow his eternal lead. Legends speak of him walking in secret among mortals, listening to their prayers, testing their words. He would appear as a traveler or stranger, watching how people welcomed, judged, or turned away. Those who opened their homes gained blessing. Those who shut their doors faced silence from the skies. For to Zeus, the small acts of justice were as great as the laws of gods, equal in the scale of eternity. When storms rumbled, many believed it was not wrath, but a reminder: be true, be fair, be kind. Zeus ruled not only Olympus, but hearts, teaching that strength without justice is hollow and fleeting. Through his reign, mortals learned that oaths are bridges, carrying trust across time, binding souls. Without those bridges, chaos would return, and even the brightest temples would crumble to dust. But with them, life had order, harmony, and a chance to grow in balance beneath the eternal sky. Thus, Zeus, guardian of oaths, protector of justice, reigned not through fear but through lasting trust. His throne was built not of stone but of honesty, his crown not of gold but of the truth unbroken. And in every storm that rolled above, mortals heard the echo of his promise: justice would endure. The reign of Zeus was not only thunder and lightning, but harmony woven through the fabric of creation. He stood as keeper of balance, guiding both gods and mortals so that chaos would not shatter the world. From the height of Olympus, he looked upon rivers, fields, seas, and skies, each flowing in their place. He understood that rule was not domination, but guardianship, holding together the rhythm of existence. The seasons moved because Zeus allowed them, spring into summer, autumn into winter, in sacred cycle. Rain fell in its time, sun shone in its measure, winds blew with purpose, all under Zeus's watchful eye. Mortals felt this order in their daily lives, sowing, reaping, building, and resting in natural rhythm. Without balance, life would wither, and Zeus made sure that no force grew too wild or too weak. He gave Poseidon the seas, Hera her throne beside him, Demeter the fields, and Hades the underworld. Each domain was honored, each power respected, yet all held within the circle of Zeus's eternal rule. The stars above traced their paths as though written by his hand, constellations burning in harmony. Astronomers of old lifted their eyes, believing they were reading the very order of Zeus's design. To farmers, the rising sun was his blessing. To sailors, the steady winds his invisible guiding hand. His reign was not chaos, but symphony. Each note of nature tuned into balance, never out of place. Priests told stories that when disorder threatened, Zeus would rise, not with rage, but with correction. A storm might come, cleansing the earth, restoring rivers, clearing the skies for light once again. Thus, thunder was not only warning but renewal, a rhythm that kept creation alive and thriving. The people saw in this harmony a reflection of justice, a sign that order was divine and eternal. For Zeus, justice and balance were bound, each strengthening the other, like twin pillars of his throne. Even gods quarreled, yet under his gaze, disputes gave way to unity, restored by his guiding presence. In the great assembly of Olympus, his voice steadied storms of pride, turning discord into agreement. He did not silence other gods, but listened, weighed their words, and chose paths that held the center. For he knew that harmony was not silence, but voices joining, each distinct yet bound by one purpose. Mortals, too, learned this lesson, building cities on trust, families on respect, nations on shared order. Zeus was honored as cosmocrator, ruler of the cosmos, guardian of balance from stars to mortal soil. Temples were raised not only for awe, but gratitude, for without harmony, survival itself was fragile. Travelers gave thanks for safe passage, farmers for harvest, sailors for calm seas after raging winds. Each prayer was not for conquest, but for balance, the gift that Zeus offered to gods and mortals alike. Legends say he often walked in thought among clouds, considering how best to preserve sacred order. He carried the weight of storms, yet his heart sought always the path of peace between all forces. The thunderbolt in his hand was a reminder not of chaos, but of the strength to keep balance alive. For harmony is not passive. It must be guarded, nurtured, and restored whenever it falls into shadow. Zeus bore this duty without hesitation, knowing that eternal reign meant eternal responsibility. Through him, time itself seemed to flow steady, each day following the next in endless sacred rhythm. Thus, his reign was not only eternal in power, but eternal in the living balance that shaped creation. And in every breath of wind, in every falling drop of rain, mortals felt the order of Zeus's watchful eye. The eternal reign of Zeus was not thunder alone, it was harmony, justice, and balance forevermore. The stories of Zeus often reached beyond Olympus, carried by poets who sang of love, union, and destiny. For though thunder was his voice, love was also his presence, shaping bonds between gods and mortals. Zeus was not only ruler of skies, but father of many, giving life to heroes who bridged worlds together. These children, born of both divine and mortal, were seen as living proof of Zeus's eternal reign on earth. Heracles, Perseus, Helen, and many more names whispered in songs, remembered in temples of stone. Each hero carried strength, courage, or beauty, gifts believed to be sparks from Zeus's divine essence. Through them, mortals felt closer to Olympus, touched by the power that lived in their own bloodlines. Some saw it as blessing, others as burden, but all knew it bound heaven and earth in sacred thread. Zeus's love was not mere desire, it was creation, weaving destiny into the tapestry of mortal history. Through unions, the world was enriched with figures who shaped cities, defended lands, and inspired hope. In myths, poets often spoke of Zeus walking disguised among mortals, seeking connection, not conquest. A stranger by the fire, a guest at the feast, he revealed himself not with thunder, but with kindness. Mortals who welcomed him found their line blessed, their stories carried on for generations to come. From these moments came the idea that love itself was divine, a force equal to justice and harmony. Zeus was honored as father of gods and men, not only for power, but for his role in giving life anew. His reign was eternal because it was not distant. It lived through each heartbeat of those he touched. Children of Zeus were often tested, their lives marked with trials, yet always watched by his guiding eye. When storms gathered above, some believed it was Zeus giving courage, urging them forward in destiny. Heroes prayed not for ease but for strength, knowing that struggle itself was a gift from their father. In every victory, they felt his presence. In every hardship, they sensed his challenge, never his absence. The people saw in this a lesson. Greatness is not given freely, it must be lived, tested, and earned. And so, Zeus's role as father was not indulgent but guiding, shaping lives with purpose and meaning. His children were bridges, connecting heavens and earth, showing mortals the path toward immortality. Through them, Zeus's reign expanded beyond Olympus, rooted in villages, cities, and epic tales of men. Temples rose not only to Zeus but to his children, symbols of lineage that tied the mortal to the divine. Every tale of heroism was thus a tale of Zeus, for his spark lived within those who carried his blood. It was said that when a hero fell, Zeus lifted their spirit, placing them among stars to shine forever. Constellations told their stories, bright above fields and seas, guiding travelers beneath eternal skies. In this way, Zeus gave mortals not only heroes but everlasting light, memory etched across the cosmos. The reign of Zeus, was not limited to Olympus or storm. It breathed through love, destiny, and legacy. He showed that power alone cannot endure. It must be carried forward through those who live after. Thus, mortals honored not only Zeus's throne, but his role as father, giver of lineage and endless hope. And in every hero's name, every child born of divine spark, the eternal reign of Zeus was remembered. From the dawn of his reign, Zeus was seen not only as ruler, but as protector of sacred tradition and ritual. He stood as guardian of worship, ensuring that offerings carried meaning and prayers reached the heavens. Temples rose across Greece, from towering altars in Olympia to quiet shrines upon lonely mountain peaks. Each stone laid was a promise. Each flame lit a bond between mortals and the divine order of Olympus. Priests reminded the people that Zeus did not crave gold, but reverence, truth, and acts of devotion. Sacrifice was not a payment, but a dialogue, a way for mortals to honor, balance, and seek divine favor. Olive branches, wine, and incense were given, rising in smoke like whispers drifting toward the skies. At great festivals, cities gathered in harmony, celebrating Zeus through games, songs, and offerings. The Olympic Games, born in his name, were not merely sport, but sacred tribute to his eternal power. Athletes ran, wrestled, and raced, not for crowns of gold, but for olive wreaths blessed by Zeus's spirit. The cheers of crowds were like prayers themselves, echoing into heavens where Zeus was believed to watch. Victory was seen as favor from the king of gods, proof that discipline, courage, and honor pleased him. These games united cities often at war, reminding all that under Zeus, harmony was greater than rivalry. Every torch lit for the games symbolized fire stolen from chaos and given meaning through sacred order. In temples, seers cast lots, and priests read signs of birds, thunder, and stars as messages of Zeus. When storms arrived before ceremonies, they were taken not as wrath, but as his presence among mortals. Even silence in the sky was sacred, as though Zeus was listening, weighing hearts before answering. For to worship Zeus was to embrace both awe and trust, knowing he heard prayers in ways beyond words. Fathers prayed for their children, sailors for safe seas, farmers for rain, rulers for wisdom and judgment. Zeus was the ear of heaven, listening not only to kings, but to shepherds, slaves, and wandering strangers. This made his reign eternal in spirit, for he was near to all, whether in grand temples or humble homes. Legends tell of altars that lit on their own, or doves descending in silence as signs of his approval. Others spoke of thunder rolling softly when oaths were sworn, as if Zeus sealed promises with sound. Such stories spread faith, weaving devotion into every corner of life, uniting cities under one divine law. Festivals became more than ritual. They were bonds of community, echoes of the justice Zeus upheld. Each prayer, each flame, each offering was a thread in the tapestry that tied mortals to eternal order. And as years turned to centuries, the worship of Zeus grew not weaker, but deeper, carried through time. The temples aged, yet their stones held voices of millions who prayed, believed, and gave reverence. Pilgrims traveled from afar to stand where Zeus was honored, carrying back stories to distant lands. They spread the idea that harmony, justice, and reverence were not local, but cosmic, reaching all souls. Zeus reigned not only through thunder, but through tradition, kept alive in songs, rituals, and sacred fire. His eternal reign was built upon faith, for as long as mortals lifted their eyes, they felt his presence. And so, through worship and ritual, Zeus was remembered not as distant, but as ever near, eternal, alive. Zeus was not only guardian of justice and tradition, but also protector of travelers, wanderers, and strangers. He watched over roads, seas, and hidden paths, ensuring that no soul was abandoned in foreign lands. To mortals, he was Zeus Xenios, the god of hospitality, whose gaze tested hearts more than homes. Every guest who crossed a threshold was sacred, for they might carry the hidden presence of a god. The hearth fire was lit not only for warmth, but as a beacon, a silent prayer to Zeus for protection. Hosts placed bread and wine before guests, believing kindness was the truest offering to the king of gods. Travelers in turn blessed their hosts, knowing generosity kept the favor of Zeus alive in daily life. This sacred exchange was more than custom. It was law, carried across valleys, mountains, and seas. Stories told of Zeus wandering in disguise, sometimes as a weary pilgrim or humble beggar seeking rest. Those who welcomed him gained blessings that endured. Those who turned him away faced only silence. But silence itself was teaching, reminding mortals that kindness is never wasted, even if unseen. For in every act of hospitality, Zeus's eternal reign was affirmed, binding strangers into kinship. Sailors especially invoked his name, praying for safe harbors and open doors upon distant shores. The sea carried not only trade but culture, and Zeus's law of hospitality united faraway peoples. Foreigners arriving in strange cities trusted this law, believing Zeus would ensure their dignity. Thus he was seen as guardian of bridges between lands, between cultures, between mortal and divine. Festivals often honored him with feasts where strangers sat beside citizens, sharing food as equals. These moments reflected his will, unity, not division, for all walked beneath the same eternal sky. When thunder rolled above, hosts felt reassured, believing Zeus blessed their homes with protection. Children were taught that every guest carried unseen worth, deserving of welcome without hesitation. Through this teaching, kindness became tradition, and tradition became the very fabric of society. Zeus Zenios reminded mortals that no one is ever truly alone. All are part of the greater human journey. And so roads became not threats, but lifelines, watched over by the justice and care of the King of Gods. Even kings bowed to this law, offering shelter to travelers, honoring Zeus's command above pride. Temples to Zeus stood at crossroads, where wanderers left prayers before continuing on their journeys. Merchants laid tokens at these shrines, asking not for riches but for safety and honest dealing. For in Zeus's reign, wealth was not measured by gold, but by fairness, kindness, and shared humanity. The eternal reign of Zeus was felt in these small gestures, where lives touched and hearts opened. Legends said that those who gave freely found their homes filled with unseen abundance and peace. It was not the gift itself, but the spirit behind it that drew Zeus's favor and eternal blessing. Hospitality, then, was not weakness but strength, a mark of harmony between mortals and the divine. Zeus taught that greatness is not in ruling others, but in honoring the sacred dignity of every soul. And so, across mountains and islands, cities and villages, his reign was alive in every welcome offered. Through him, strangers became friends, travelers became family, and the world felt smaller, safer, whole. Thus, the eternal reign of Zeus was not distant thunder, but the warmth of hearth and the kindness of men. Zeus was not only lord of the skies and protector of guests, he was also keeper of destiny and divine order. The Greeks called this Moira, the great weaving of fate, a tapestry where mortals and gods were bound. Zeus did not weave every thread, but he sat at the center, ensuring the balance of all creation was held. In his reign, fate was not chaos but rhythm, a song sung by the universe, steady and unbroken. Mortals prayed to Zeus not only for storms or harvests, but to understand their path within destiny. He was not the tyrant of fate, but its guardian, ensuring no thread was cut before its destined time. When thunder echoed, mortals believed it was Zeus, reminding them that destiny always moves forward. The Moirai, the fates, spun their threads, but Zeus watched with care, keeping harmony in their design. Even gods bowed to this law, for fate was older than Olympus, yet trusted to Zeus for protection. He became the unseen architect, guiding rivers of chance into seas of purpose and divine meaning. Legends spoke of kings rising and falling, not by whim, but by the justice of Zeus's eternal order. No mortal could escape destiny, yet all found comfort in knowing Zeus walked beside their journey. Poets described his reign as a scale, where every deed was weighed, and balance was the final gift. This balance was not punishment, but fairness, a sign that even the smallest act held eternal value. When mortals wondered why fortune shifted, they turned their eyes to Zeus, master of unseen balance. His justice was not swift thunder, but quiet certainty, ensuring no soul was forgotten in destiny's weave. The eternal reign of Zeus lived in patience, in the unseen wisdom of waiting for the right season. Farmers planting seeds believed Zeus blessed their labor, aligning time and fate with their hands. Sailors charting stars prayed not for ease, but for destiny to carry them where they were meant to go. Even lovers whispered his name, trusting Zeus to bless the thread that tied their souls together. Through him, fate became not fear but trust, for the ruler of skies also guarded the order of life. Temples rose not only to honor his power, but to seek guidance, to ask how destiny should be embraced. Priests told stories that reminded mortals, though fate cannot be escaped, it can be understood, and in understanding, mortals found peace. For Zeus's reign was not chaos, but the assurance of meaning. Every oath sworn was tied to fate, and Zeus, as witness, ensured it became part of destiny's fabric. Kings ruled knowing their choices echoed in eternity, bound by Zeus's watchful, timeless gaze. Children learned early that kindness, courage, and truth were threads Zeus himself cherished most. For destiny was not only about endings, but the character woven through life's unfolding pattern. The eternal reign of Zeus was therefore not distant but intimate, present in every choice and step. When storms cleared and skies opened, mortals felt the truth. Destiny was guided, never abandoned. Zeus's rule was eternal because he was not merely a god of thunder, but guardian of balance itself. As long as the stars spun and the world turned, his reign endured in the tapestry of fate and order. Thus, mortals lived not in fear, but in reverence, trusting Zeus to guard their place in the grand design. The reign of Zeus was not bound only to the heavens, but stretched into every corner of mortal life. He was Zeus Horkios, the guardian of oaths, ensuring promises made were promises kept through eternity. When mortals swore by his name, their words were bound by lightning, sacred threads of divine justice. An oath was not a whisper, but a contract, watched by Zeus, who valued truth above fleeting ambition. In marketplaces, traders called upon him to witness their bargains, seeking honesty in every exchange. Courts and councils invoked his presence, asking his unseen hand to weigh fairness against deceit. Children were taught that to break an oath was to defy Zeus himself, risking dishonor that lingered. Yet his rule was not cruel but guiding, for he reminded mortals that truth was the root of harmony. The eternal reign of Zeus lived not only in thunder but in the quiet integrity of daily choices. A man who kept his word was honored as much as a warrior, for Zeus saw truth as its own kind of valor. Legends told of rulers who thrived under his gaze, their kingdom strong because trust bound their people. Likewise, tales spoke of leaders who fell, undone not by battle but by deceit against their sworn word. Zeus's justice was timeless. It was not vengeance, but the steady restoration of balance and order. Mortals felt this balance in their own lives, learning that honesty was the truest path to peace. When storms rolled, people said it was Zeus, reminding them that words are weighty, not to be broken. For every lie cracked the fabric of trust, but every truth stitched the world closer together. Thus, oaths were sacred, not only between mortals, but between mortals and gods. A bridge of faith. Even the gods of Olympus swore by Zeus's name, acknowledging his role as keeper of divine integrity. Hera, Athena, Apollo, all respected the binding power of Zeus's eternal authority and truth. This trust gave mortals courage, for they knew that justice lived in the very order of the universe. The eternal reign of Zeus was not endless thunder, but the quiet certainty of a word kept true. Temples to Zeus Horkios rose in city squares, where people swore oaths of loyalty, love, and law. Inside, priests guided them, reminding each soul that Zeus listened not to voices, but to hearts. For a hollow oath meant nothing, but a true one carried weight even into the halls of eternity. Travelers carried this law into distant lands, binding communities together with shared reverence. Zeus's presence was felt in handshakes, promises, and vows spoken under the open, endless sky. The heavens themselves became his witness, stars shining as eternal reminders of divine truth. When night fell, mortals looked upward, believing their words were woven into the constellations. A father's vow to protect his child, a lover's pledge, a king's promise, all were heard by Zeus. And though mortals aged and faded, their words endured, carried by the eternal reign of their god. Zeus's gift was not only justice, but memory. For truth lived on beyond the span of mortal years. This made mortals walk with care, knowing that their speech shaped not only life, but destiny. In keeping their word, they honored not only themselves, but the eternal balance Zeus preserved. And so his reign lived in silence, as much as in sound, in stillness, as much as in storm. The eternal reign of Zeus was not distant or unreachable, but present in every vow, every promise. As long as mortals cherished truth, the thunder in the sky was matched by harmony on the earth. Thus Zeus remained eternal, not only king of Olympus, but sovereign of every honest heart below.